testing out this little new mic thing here. I had another one that I was using, but I gave it away. And this one's kind of bulky. Looks kind of goofy, but I think it'll work well. So we'll see how that goes. But some of you might be familiar with my background. I was a United States Marine for 5 years. And in those 5 years, I actually had the opportunity to work with the religious command on base for 4 out of the 5 years. And in those 4 out of the 5 years, they gave me the opportunity to become a religious lay leader, like officially. So you can work with the religious command at some basic level, but then officially you can be dedicated for a certain amount of time. So out of, I don't know, the 4 years that I've been doing this on YouTube, a lot of people are in denial about the United States Marine Corps religious program, religious lay leader program, for various reasons. People just are in denial just to be in denial, right? They like to be contrarians on the internet. The United States Marine Corps lay leader program is it's not very well known. And so when you Google chaplain's assistant, the Navy will come up, or religious specialist, the Army will come up. So it's kind of hard to find anything on the Marine Corps religious lay leader program. And so luckily, I have my book that I'm going to be testing the microphone on, reading the book on the responsibilities and expectations of what it meant to be a religious lay leader. Again, and I don't know how to flip the camera, so I'm sorry, it's backwards. But the religious lay leader program was a specific. It's funny. You can act as a religious lay leader in an unofficial capacity, and then officially. And so I worked unofficially for most of my 4 years at the base, and then officially for 6 months. So there was specific military orders to detach me from my command and then be put in to the religious command for 6 specific months. So all my focus was on that. And so a lot of times, people will be like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. You weren't a Catholic. You didn't know anything about these denominations. And you're going to find out specifically, I had to be able to tell the differences between denominations, and that was a requirement, so on and so forth. Other books, if you're interested on what a religious leader may use, is this is an old devotional book. Again, these are just devotionals. This is one I think for World War II that I have a couple copies of. Again, I'm sorry, the camera's backward. It says Song and Service Book for the Ship and the Field. This is for the Army and the Navy. In World War II, they didn't have an Air Force. It was called the Army Air Force in World War II. This is the devotional field book. I think somebody else, I actually purchased this myself because I couldn't find my field devotional book. So this is a purchase thing that somebody rebinded, which is kind of neat. And then this is this right here is the Commander's Handbook for Religious Ministry Support, which is this is the Commander's Handbook. So this is what the commander would have. And so before I go into reading this, what does it say? Before I go into reading the religious lay leader, I'm just going to read the brief description of the commander's book. So you understand the commander's perspective. Hey, Marilyn. We're going to understand the commander's perspective before I get into my responsibilities when I was in the Marine Corps as a religious lay leader. Now, again, as a religious lay leader, it wasn't just Christianity. It was all sorts of spiritual expectations for all sorts of denominations, including even Wiccan. Wiccan is considered like a witch, nature, witchcraft, pagan type of religion. That still fell under our responsibility. So let me give me 1 second as I pull this up. I don't know why It is a little hot and it clips a little. Okay. All right. That's good to know. That's exactly what I'm trying to test. It's clipping, huh? Because I'm barely talking. All right. Not much. You know what I can do before I get in? Thanks, Moto Sapien. Let me, yeah, that means a lot. Thank you so much. Because, you know, you go through all this. What I've learned is when you can't, you can have bad video, but if you have bad audio, like who wants to listen to that, right? All right. Let me try this little, this thingy, if that's really the, if that's what's, I'm sorry if it makes weird noises. I'm figuring this out real time. Oh, it goes like this. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. Okay, let's see if that works. There is a little gain setting to turn down. Should solve it. I do have this, maybe you're right, I do have this, I've never used this, just so you know. So there's a V. But okay, now I mute it. Try this. Is this any better? Because I don't have it muted. There's a mute button here, but maybe I pushed the volume. Perfect. Okay. Testing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. This is my radio voice. That's what my dad taught me anyway. So, okay. We'll try that. Okay. All right. So back to the what the commander's point of view is. Successful commanders, and just to give you the perspective, where I was a religious lay leader, my commander of all religious services was a Latter-day Saint. So out of all the denominations and all the, you know, spiritual services that we had to perform, the head commander was a Mormon. So that's the guy who actually gave me the opportunity to do what I did, which is kind of cool. All right. So I think we're good on the volume. Again, I'm barely talking, so thanks for that. Successful commanders have discovered that effective use of their religious ministry team, so the RMT, has a positive impact on readiness, moral, and family support issues. They also understand that an effective command religious program, CRP, and the spiritual care that chaplains provide are irreplaceable on the battlefield. Now it switches to the Marine Corps. Marine Corps reference publication 16-2C. This is actually 12C. This is actually 16-12B. This is hard to find. The Commander's Handbook for Religious Ministry Support is a common sense guide. It's interesting. A common sense guide designed for field grade commanders to help facilitate their CRP and to empower their chaplains and RMTs. As part of the Marine Corps Religious Ministry family of publications, it summarizes information contained in the Marine Corps Warfighting Publication 6-12, Religious Ministry Support in the United States Marine Corps, which is crucial for commanders to become leaders in their CRP. So this is the book that basically sets the standard for how the commanders, the officers will put on religious services and allow a lay leader like myself to facilitate those services. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the introduction here, because this is going to kind of dispel a lot of the myths and the denial of what I had to do and understand. So what we're going to do here, let's see here. Let's say hands for feet. This thing wants me to do this thing just popped up and wanted me to do like some sort of a question for you guys. It's funny. I don't want to do that. The Marine Corps reference publication, Religious Lay Leader Handbook, provides guidance, technique, and procedures for the Marine Corps Religious Lay Leader program. This sets forth command responsibilities and standards for the religious lay leaders in the Marine Corps. It describes the administration procedures for religious lay leaders in the conduct of their ministry. This publication provides authoritative basis for how religious lay leaders are incorporated into command religious programs to assist in the provision of religious ministry support for the free exercise of religion, so not just Christianity, for any religion, for the Marines and sailors. The MCRP describes the role, function, and responsibilities of religious lay leaders in accordance with the principles of religious ministry support defined in the Marine Corps war-fighting publication. Okay, so this book is the authoritative source. That's what it's saying. This is the gospel for lay leaders. Okay, so let's go to, because it has introduction and definitions, background requirements for accommodation, so and then function. That's kind of where we want to go. So let's go to the introduction, which is the introduction of the fundamentals here. So there's no question of what this is about. Religious lay leaders of various faith groups promote opportunities for worship, provide field devotional services. So as a lay leader, I had to provide devotional services when applicable and offer prayers in the absence of a chaplain or a clergy of a faith group. So I think a lot of civilians don't understand that as military members, we had to be prepared for the worst case scenario. So if there's no chaplain or clergy who's ordained, then how do I step in and provide services that are considered sacraments or ordained attributes in a way that doesn't, it's not replacing them or being sacrilege either, but being prepared to fulfill or continue if necessary. So obviously these are extreme circumstances, but in the military, you're prepared for the extreme circumstances. So it says here, when empowered by a faith group and authorized by the command, religious lay leaders may also provide specific sacraments or ordinances and or lead faith group services when a chaplain or ordained clergy of that faith group is not available. Right there. I mean, we don't even have to, it's literally in the introduction, in the fundamentals. It is a fundamental that I, as an unordained individual, given certain circumstances, may have to carry out sacraments or ordained services. It's a possibility. The circumstance is there. So being prepared for that is required as a fundamental responsibility. And that's the reason why I'm pointing that out, is because when I mention this to Orthodox or Catholics, they immediately reject it. Like, no way. Only the ordained can blah, blah, blah. There's no way. And it's like, guys, military service is an exception by nature. It's like they had to make provisions in the worst case scenario. And it's not just some nook and cranny statement in the back in the, one liner here. It's literally a fundamental. Again, I'm going to read it again. When empowered by a faith group, my faith group was called non-denominational. So my faith group was anything. It didn't matter. Like, obviously, I didn't go and like provide services for like Wiccan. I didn't go outside of Christianity, right? But my faith group was Christianity. And so according to the requirements, when empowered by a faith group and authorized by the command, which I was officially authorized for 6 months. When empowered by religious lay leaders may also provide specific sacraments or ordinances and or lead faith group services when a chaplain or ordained clergy of that faith group is not available. So again, in the United States Marine Corps lay leader services, not only are we trained to be warriors in the field, that's what a Marine is, but also spiritual battle. We do not only the physical battle, but we also look at the spiritual battle. All right, so we're going to continue. Requirements for accommodation. No, that's just, there's a bunch of acronyms there. Let's do responsibility. Okay. So in the chapter about responsibility, establishing and supporting religious ministries in the United States Marine Corps is the responsibility of all Marine commanders. Commanding officers are authorized to appoint lay leaders to assist their chaplains in meeting the identified religious rights and requirements of the command members. So this is important because it's not only was it the Navy side that had to approve me to get detached from my unit, but obviously my commander also had to approve it. So I had to get approval from the commander that I was attached to, and then the religious command structure approved it. So the lay leader program, it says, the lay leader appointments in writing helps the command meet the requirement to provide for free exercise of religion by all command personnel. These command appointments respond to identified religious requirements and convey no ecclesiastical status to the service members appointed. Appointment by the command is also, in other words, I'm just helping facilitate the services. I'm not a member of the church itself. Appointment by the command also implies the authority to terminate such appointment and remove an individual for participation in the leadership role in the command religious program. So again, that it's specified very clearly, I'm in a leadership role. But they can terminate it if they see fit, because why? Because if you're not a good guy, then it's probably not a good idea if you're in it. All right. Let's move on. So, this is an important distinction here. So in general, lay-led services are not equivalent to divine services conducted by chaplains or ordained clergy. They're not. Lay-led services are integral. So in general, standard services are integral to the command religious program and are subject to chaplain supervision. Lay-led services constitute temporary accommodation of specific religious need. Offerings, so this is important here, offerings should not be taken at lay-conducted services except authorized by a commanding officer. So again, anytime a lay leader does anything that's a sacrament or ordained or offerings like that, it's an exception. But the exception means you have to be prepared to do said exception. Okay, so it talks about the role and the character, being involved in others, being a team builder, duties. So let's talk about duties. So this is what was required of me. Okay. Duties as directed by the chaplains responsible for the religious ministry service, RMS, or team, or whatever services, and as authorized by their commanders. Religious lay leaders advise their chaplains of all related requirements and activities, assist the religious ministry teams in identifying the religious requirements of their faith group. So I have to, again, what's going on with, you know, the denominations and such that I'm integrated with. Plan, prepare, coordinate, and assist RMTs in providing the logistics support required for the faith group requirements and field or shipboard devotional services. Plan, prepare, coordinate, conduct devotional services, and administer faith group requirements on Sundays and other appropriate days when deployed in the field. Complete required command and faith group lay leader training and maintaining required faith group relationship or status. Now, again, I was not only non-denominational, but I also worked for the Catholic chapel as well. Publicize approved faith group programs. Maintain direct communication with chaplains assigned to support their commands or units, and provide timely referrals for pastors, counseling, and other ministries required by command members. Submit required lay leader activity reports to the commanding officer and chaplain responsible for RMS of their unit. Okay, and then it says Appendix A is an example of said report. Let's see. See what Appendix A looks like. Appendix A. Appendix A. So something like that. I'd have to submit whenever they told me to submit it. Okay, so here's the task and the standards. This is where it gets good. Lay leaders are not required to violate the tenets and practices of faith groups. The nature of religious ministry, that's a funny way to put that, right? Lay leaders are not required to violate the tenets of practices of faith group. It means like you're put into certain positions where it might seem like you have to break the tenets of them, but you're not required to do so. Like, that's not what you should be doing. The nature of the religious ministry within the Marine Corps does require support for the religious freedom of all. Lay leaders are expected to complete basic lay leader tasks to prescribed standards. Lay leaders are expected to model the core values of the Marine Corps: honor, courage, commitment, and maintain exemplary personal performance and behavior records within their commands. In addition, the following are the baseline performance tasks for lay leaders. Demonstrate dedication and responsibility to the faith, command, chaplain, and command members. Just demonstrate the ability to properly care for the religious equipment and supplies entrusted in their care. Demonstrate a working knowledge of the logistics requirements for support of the ministry, including religious supplies, inventory, and command requisition procedures. Demonstrate the ability to properly set up for specific faith group and devotional services. Let me repeat that again. Demonstrate and the ability to properly set up for specific faith group and devotional services. Demonstrate a working knowledge of proper procedures for publicizing approved faith group activities and distributing approved religious information and materials. Demonstrate a working knowledge of proper referral procedures for persons seeking religious or personal counseling. Demonstrate a working knowledge of the parameters of the commander's responsibilities for the provision of religious ministry and the free exercise of religion as delineated in appropriate manuals, orders, and instructions. Demonstrate the ability to plan, prepare, and lead field devotional services, demonstrate the ability to distinguish. Now I'm going to re-emphasize this one. Demonstrate the ability to distinguish between faith group specific and shared religious traditions and practices. I'm going to say that again. As a United States Marine religious lay leader, the specific task and standard is to demonstrate the ability to distinguish between faith groups, specific and shared religious traditions and practices. But so when you hear me online talking to other denominations, and I'm explaining the similarities and the differences between the denominations and what doctrines are being taught, I was expected to do this. I did this for 4 years. And so when people come at me that I don't know what I'm talking about, it's like, well, all the people that certified me and trained me and I worked with for 4 years thought otherwise. Otherwise, I would not have worked with them for effectively 3.5 years, and then them giving me dedicated 6 months detached from my command. So again, demonstrate the ability to distinguish between faith group specific and standard religious traditions and practices. Okay, so moving on, demonstrate the ability to support the free exercise of religion by command members and other faith traditions. Demonstrate the ability to work closely and cooperatively with other lay leaders representing various religious traditions. Demonstrate a clear understanding of the parameters of the faith group and the group's expectations and limits. So again, understanding the boundaries within that faith group. So whether it's Catholic or Orthodox, Calvinist, Pentecostal, Free Grace, it doesn't matter. My responsibility was to understand how they fit within their faith group, including Mormonism, right? Because that was the head chaplain on the base at that time was a Latter-day Saint. Demonstrate the ability. Sorry, I lost track. Demonstrate the ability to identify and communicate the religious needs and requirements of command members. Demonstrate the ability to complete and submit lay leader activity reports to the commanding officer and chaplain responsible for the RMS of the unit. Maintain relationship with a faith group as required by the faith group. Study and represent the general teachings and practices of their faith group faithfully. So let me reinforce that again. As a United States Marine who was part of the lay leader command structure, I had to study and represent the general teachings and practices of their faith group faithfully. Demonstrate the ability to communicate clearly and involve others in public worship. Maintain a state of physical, mental, and spiritual readiness. And I think we're pretty much done on that. Yeah, and that was it. So the faith group requirements, practices, teachings are established by each respective faith group. So when it came to the Protestants, they were kind of clumped together. And so you would handle certain teachings regarding to the denomination, but we didn't focus on denominational services. So it wasn't like you went to the Calvinist 9 o'clock service and then you went to the Lutheran 10 o'clock service. It wasn't like that. But you had a Catholic chapel who had their own facilities and command structure, who dotted lines to the command structure of the base. And then the Protestant chapel was on the other side, and they facilitate pretty much everything the best we can, depending on your need. For example, this is kind of interesting. The religious commander was, like I said, a Latter-day Saint, and his daughter, obviously being a Latter-day Saint, was dating a Calvinist. I don't make that make sense. I don't know if they ended up getting married or not, but it was getting pretty serious. And I remember having multiple conversations with him. He just overemphasized the sovereignty of God. No matter what happens, God is sovereign. God is sovereign. God's sovereign. That was always what's coming out of his mouth. At the meantime, he's dating a woman who's a Latter-day Saint, and it's like, well, how do you make that square? How do you square that hole, right? I don't know, but they seem to get along just fine. But again, that's what it says here. Faith group requirements, practices, and teachings are established by each respective faith group. So as long as the faith group thinks I'm representing them correctly, then I'm fitting in with the faith group to facilitate their needs. Lay leaders are appointed to help commanders meet the requirements to provide for the free exercise of religion by all command personnel. Such appointments respond to identified needs and convey no faith group status to the lay leaders. See, let me repeat that again. Such appointments respond to identified need and convey no faith group status to the lay leaders, but rather acknowledge such status and permit lay leaders to carry out a limited role in the commander's religious ministry services mission. So again, I'm not a Calvinist religious lay leader, right? I'm not a Methodist religious lay leader or an Anglican. No, it's whoever has a need for religious services. I had to facilitate the need wherever it came up. That was the whole point. I'm already a United States Marine, which means I get thrown into the muck. I'm the first to go. I go attack the thing, use rubber bands and straws. And they say, okay, so you take that and now you're doing it in spiritual warfare. Go help, the Anglicans, go help the Episcopalians, go help the Methodists, go help the Catholics, go help the Orthodox. It didn't matter. So I had to be trained in whatever the current mission need is to facilitate that denomination. And that's what makes it so unique. So the Marine Corps is not empowered to establish or validate the requirements and practices of individual faith groups. So let me repeat that. The Marine Corps is not empowered to establish the practice of individual faith groups. Lay leaders are responsible for complying with the mandates, practices, and teachings of the faith groups. So whatever faith group I am put into, they are facilitating my compliance to their denominational need. Not the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps is like, this guy, he's good to go. Hey, Clover, sorry, I didn't see the message there. This guy, he's good to go. He can attack the plan. He's got the passion. He's got the whatever. And then the faith group says, great, we're going to take that desire that's bottled up and we're going to direct it to spiritual warfare in context to the denominational perspective. During the appointment process, lay leader candidates provide verification of the current status and specific functions that they are authorized to perform from the faith group. It remains the responsibility of each lay leader to maintain this status while serving under appointment by the commander. Details of appointment are provided in Chapter 3. Since Marine commanders have no authority to impart faith group status or credentials, the loss of a lay leader's recognized faith group status is cause for revocation of his or her appointment as a lay leader. So in other words, if the faith group loses confidence in me, then I'm removed as a lay leader. Serving his capacity to ensure compliance with the tenets and practices of their faith and maintain their credentials. In American society, persons from different faith groups often attend and participate in worship services, prayers, and devotional services of faith groups with shared or common theological positions and compatible practices. Marines and sailors are encouraged to attend and participate in worship and devotional services conducted by chaplains and or lay leaders when such participation does not violate faith groups' tenets. Such mutual support and shared worship, prayers, and lay-led devotional services become essential. Marines and sailors are isolated and have no access to chaplains other clergy, or their own faith communities. And there you have it. So I'm obviously not going to read the whole book, but what we covered in summary was that the Marine Corps Religious Lay Leader Program is unique. It's not normal. It's rare, first of all, to even find this book. It's actually hard to find this book. But also, when it comes to the duties of the religious lay leader, it is non-denominational by its structure, so that they can facilitate the needs of whatever the religious group needs at that time. I got a question here. Did that ever get difficult for you? Like, what helped you stay grounded, focus on the task? I would have to, hey Codex, I would have to say the most difficult thing for me was working for the Catholic chapel. That because there were like I had to, what I did is I just shut off my personal thoughts. That was the trick, because like when I had to facilitate the lighting of the candles, right, or you know, doing like the confessional booth stuff, or setting up the Eucharist, and going through the religious process with their little mini tabernacle and stuff like that. There was a lot of things that was tempting me to think critical of what I was facilitating. And so for me, it was more like, no, this is my job. I don't care what it is. You know, they want me here to help them. And so it's not my place to think critically about their denominational difference. And the Catholic Church was the most stark difference that challenged me personally not to bite that temptation, you know. But when it came to like non-Christian services, it wasn't really a problem, because they weren't in the Christian church. If I had to facilitate any non-Christian services, it was outside of the Christian church. So it would be like maybe in a room in one of the conference buildings or something like that. They needed some sort of something. I wouldn't really facilitate any of the services. I would just provide resource needs. So that wasn't really a problem. They're not Christian. It's not, you know, conflicting with me. They're outside of the church. And then for the Protestants, for the most part, I think the services were so like they had the lowest common denominator of service messaging, that it wasn't really conflicting. Like when you would listen to the denominational services, you wouldn't be like, that sounds Anglican, you know, that sounds Calvinist. They pretty much, I don't want to call it watered down, because there were some really good messages, but they would say things in a way that it was hard to pinpoint the religious facilitation of the chaplain itself. So I hope that answers your question. It was definitely reminding myself, I'm here to help them, and if I think critically from my personal perspective, then we're not helping them. It's not helping anybody. They believe what they believe, and I'm here to facilitate what they believe. So, all right. So that's it. Again, this is a very hard book to find. I don't know. I try to find it online. I can't find it online. It's very rare. They're similar. Again, it's a 6-2B, not C. C is the commander version, but B is the religious lay leader version. I might make a copy of this and maybe put it up on Amazon or something, because I think this has a really good insight of what it takes to be a non-denominational lay leader. And I think there needs to be more of us, not just in the Marine Corps, but I think this needs to exist. Don't get me wrong, I'm not an ecumenicalist. Like, I don't think we need to be ecumenical. I think we do need to be in communion, right? So I was facilitating the needs of the Catholic Church, but I wasn't ecumenicalizing with them. I wasn't compromising my theology to get an agreement. No, there was a stark difference of what I believe and what they believe, but I was in communion. I helped them with the Eucharist, right? And I helped them with their sacraments, but I wasn't ecumenical. It wasn't like, oh yeah, we're agreeing as a theological handshake here. No, I'm in communion with you. We both believe that Jesus is our Savior, and I'm going to facilitate your belief that Jesus is our Savior and that He's coming to resurrect, us someday in glory, just as anybody else in whatever denomination, right? Unless you're a preterist. Preterism wasn't very common back then, as it is today, but in general, Christians do believe that. So that's it. If you can't find this online, feel free to leave a comment. If you want to, find a download or something like that, maybe I'll make one, or put it up on Amazon for people to buy cheap. So, all right. Thanks, everyone. Until next time.